أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, first we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. Allah has granted us the tawfiq and the ability to perform the Maghrieb Salaah with Jama'ah, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that indeed إذا رأيتم الرجل يعتاد المساجد فاشهدوا له بالإيمان, that when you see a person regularly attend the masjid performing salah in jama'ah, then bear witness that that is a person of iman. So we make dua, Allah grant us to be of those who will regularly attend the masjid and make us of those who have iman, ameen rabbal alameen, and those who will leave this dunya with iman and be resurrected with the people of iman, ameen rabbal alameen. This evening Imam Suyuti rahimahullah, he mentions a beautiful point briefly discussing the durul nafs arba'ah. He speaks about the residence of the ruh, our ruh, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it that our ruh, our spirit as we know it, it has 4 stages it goes through. Or rather, it has 4 inhabitants and 4 homes. And the first one, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned, he says, للنفس أربعة دور كل دار أعظم من التي قبلها. He says that for the ruh, there are 4 abodes. And the first or the second is always more greater than the first. And he mentions the first abode, Batnul The first abode of the ruh is the womb of the mother. Is the womb of the mother, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this surah Abasa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully in 2 or 3 or 4 ayats, Allah describes the entire process of our existence, or stages of our existence. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مِن نُطْفَةٍ خَلَقَهُ فَقَدَّرَهُ. Allah has created us from a drop of sperm, and Allah has fashioned us in the way we see ourselves today, in the form Allah has created us in. So here Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says that the first stage of the ruh, the first abode of the ruh, is the time we spend in the womb of our mothers. And every person, every living creature, every person, every human being, he spends some time in the womb of his mother. Whether he spend the full 9 months, or whether he spend 8 months, or whether he spend 7.5 months, but all of us spend a time in the ruh of our mothers. And we learn from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that at the age of 4 months, the 120 days, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after Allah has created us and after Allah has decided that you will be developing in the womb of your mother, that after 120 days Allah commanded the malaika that now blow the ruh into the baby. And once the malaika blew the ruh, now we were categorized as living being, as a human being. And then we stayed in the ruh of the womb of our mothers for 9 months. So that is the first stage every person had to go through. And then the second stage, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned, he says, هذه الدار التي نشأت فيها وألفتها. It is this place that we are currently living in, this dunya. This place that we are currently living in, this place that we grew up in, this place that we became familiar with. واكتسبت فيها الخير والشر. And we experience in this dunya, in this house that we are currently living, this ruh, in the body Allah has given to us in this dunya, we experience all type of good and all type of evil. And this is the most important stage and abode of the ruh. Because in this abode, in this time in this dunya, this will determine what the next abode will be like. Like how when a person is pregnant, the first thing the pregnant lady does, she go to the doctor and she gets some vitamin tablets and all of these things to make sure that that the baby isn't short of anything. Because why? If the baby is short of anything, it could affect the baby long term. Likewise, Allah has given us our time in this dunya, and it is the responsibility of every person to always check his condition in this dunya. This 50, 60 years Allah has given us in this dunya, it will determine how the rest of our akhirah will be. It will determine how the next abode will be. That's why Allah says, oh, those who believe, or those who fear Allah, that فَتَنْظُرْ نَفْسُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ, that look out and be careful and see what are you sending forth for tomorrow. What are you investing for tomorrow? Meaning, the third stage we go through. And what is the third stage we will experience? Darul Barzakh. It is the moment when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah mentioned Surah Abasa, ثُمَّ أَمَاتَهُ فَأَقْبَرَهُ. Allah will cause us to die and we will be placed in the grave. And the time in our grave, it is known as Amul Barzakh. The time you spend in the Barzakh, in the grave, my beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, as I mentioned, the way we spend our time in this dunya will determine how our qabr will be. It will determine how our barzakh will be. If our homes, if our hearts are filled with hatred and darkness and sin and the disobedience of Allah, our grave will be like that. Our grave will become dark. Our grave will be constricted. But if the heart and the house and the home is filled with the Quran and filled with the dhikr of Allah, filled with the obedience of Allah, then that will be the condition of the barzakh, where we will spend much more greater time in. In this dunya we might live for 50 years. That's why they say you live more underground than on top of the ground. You might live for 70 years underground. There's people already buried for thousands of years, buried for hundreds of years. So me and you, we determine how we want our barzakh to be. We determine how we want our qabr to be. So the third stage a person goes through, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned, is the stage of the barzakh. And then the final stage we go through is the darul qarar, allati la dara ba'daha. And that is the final abode, where there's no abode after that. It is either the abode of Jannah or the abode of Jahannam. It will either be the abode of Jannah or the abode of Jahannam. After that, there's no other abode. And this is the final stage the ruh goes through. And we must always make dua to Allah. Oh Allah, grant us to be of those who will experience your Jannah. Because of those who will enter your Jannah, Ya Rab. Because if we enter the Jannah, that is everlasting success, everlasting happiness. There's no restriction of time in Jannah. There's no sickness in Jannah. There's no of difficulties in Jannah. There's no calamities in Jannah. It will be everlasting bliss and everlasting contentment and everlasting happiness. And this is something we cannot even imagine. And so the final stage is the Darul Qarar, that final abode, which is Jannah or Jahannam. And again, Allah has given us the ability. We need to see, what are we working for? Are we working for Jannah or are we working for Jahannam? Is our life in a direction that we are pleasing Allah, worshipping Allah, trying to get closer to Allah, or are we going towards a direction where we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we break every law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we not fulfill the command of Allah, we not establish the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so again, it comes all back to us, my beloved brothers, sisters in Islam. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that our final abode must be the abode of Jannah. And all of us experience the everlasting happiness and everlasting enjoyment in seeing the beauty of our beloved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the company of beloved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah to give us a tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillah.